So the thing is, the important thing is to really recognize, not to take, again, our life for granted. And to just take it like, well, it's not important. And later on, when I finish doing this, and I finish doing that, and I've finished doing that, then I'll start doing some practice, in the future. Procrastinating. Because we don't know. I mean, people all the time are being diagnosed with very life-threatening sicknesses, accidents, outer problems, inner problems. We really should not procrastinate. I mean, recently, we have in our nunnery, we have 2 girls, lay girls, from our Tibetan community, in the monastery in our Tibetan community we're affiliated with. So the community is called Tashijong. And so they're lay girls from Tashijong, and they've been working now in our nunnery for many years. And, when I guess it's because, all these foreigners come and they're also interested in practicing and in the Dharma. And then, of course, they're working in a nunnery, so all the nuns are studying and practicing all day long. Anyway, a little while ago, they both said to me, we need to speak to you. Oh my God, what? They surely couldn't want to leave. What's their problem, So they came in and they sat down very serious. I was thinking of all the horrible things that they might be going to tell me. And then they said, we want to do our ngondro. Ngondro is a preliminary practices which start with 100,000 prostrations. I said, but that's wonderful, girls, I mean, what are you looking so grim about? And then and one of them said, I said, why have you decided you want to do your ngondro? And one of them said, I was reading a text by this Indian sage called Padamba Sanjay, in which he's going on about procrastination and how we keep putting things off and we keep putting things off, and next thing you know, we're old and we're dying. And she said, I realized that I'm just procrastinating. She must have learned that word. She said, I'm procrastinating. And I thought, yes, because she has an old father that she takes care of. And she was probably thinking, when Dad goes, then I'll start practicing. But her father has just had new knees and a whole new life. Fortunately, he's a lovely man. But, he could last another 20 years easily. And I hope he does. Then she won't leave. But she said, I realized I was procrastinating and I've got to start now. And, so when they come home from work, then they do prostrations, and then in the morning they get up, and then the weekends. And her father, it's very sweet. She said when she told her father she was going to do her ngondro, he said, oh, take a month off and we'll go down to Bodh Gaya and I will cook for you while you do prostrations by the tree. So, I mean, really, everybody's rejoicing. So it's very good. They're doing that. So the point is not to procrastinate. Not to think there's going to be a better time when I will be able to do practice. There's no time but now. Really, I mean, I know that's a cliche, but it's really true. This is the time. All of us, I mean, apathy is an enormous obstacle. And when all our little nuns were given little cuddly toys, we also could choose one, and I chose a sloth. Because I thought, that's me, a sloth. And so it's very important to really remind ourselves that we don't know how much longer we've got, and while we are here now, this is the time. There's no better time than now. And it doesn't mean that we all have to go into retreat. It just means that we have to really put the Dharma, our spiritual life, at the center of our life. Not just at the corners when we can get a bit of time or think about it, but really use everything that happens to us as a teaching process. What can I learn from this? What is this helping me to understand? I mean, this is very important. There's so much teaching out there, but the essential meaning is so simple that we use everybody we meet and every situation which happens to us as a means of growing. The Buddha called us ordinary human beings the childish. I mean, sometimes it's translated as fools, but it doesn't mean fools, it means immature. And so the path is to become mature, to become grown-ups. Outwardly, we grow up, we get bigger, and in time we get wrinkles and sags, and we think we're adult. But inside, so often, we're still 4-year-olds. You know, things go well, happy. Things go badly, and we're distraught. Inside, we're screaming, "Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me?" Outwardly, we might keep it cool. But inside, our reactions are the reactions of a little child. And so we suffer. So the Buddhist path is that of maturing and ripening and being liberated. Like a plant, you know, that ripens and ripens and it drops off when it's ripe. So all of us have to look, not in the mirror of what's happening to our face, but in the mirror of our mind. What's happening to our mind? Are we really improved from 20, 30, 40 years ago? How much have we taken the spiritual life and placed it right in the center of our being? Or is it only when we have, you know, a few moments to spare? If we really want to fundamentally transform, it has to be the most important thing in our life. Doesn't mean we have to go off into the mountain caves, but it does mean that we have to recognize this is the most important thing that I can ever encounter. This is the most crucial thing. And so instead of adapting outer things to suit, you know, a bit of Dharma practice when we have time, we have to take the Dharma into every segment of our lives, everything. Make our whole life a Dharma practice. Doesn't matter outwardly how we are situated, inwardly. This is why the human rebirth is so important. Because this is the one realm in which we can do that. And this is why the Buddha gets reborn in the human realm. Because this is the one place where we have the potential to really develop. So, you know, all of us within our own capacities, you know, I'm not saying that in one lifetime we're all going to get enlightened. Who cares about being enlightened? Try being a bit more kind. Try being a little more generous, a little more open-hearted, a little more compassionate, a little more patient. This is the one place, you know, we are born, when we get reborn, we take a lot of our habit traits with us. And so, you know, from young we have very strong personality traits. But we can all transform and change. It takes time, but we can do it. And even neuroscientists are saying that it's true that all these neural pathways can be transformed, changed. Even if, you know, they're very deeply embedded in us, but we can change them if we apply ourselves. So we're better to retrain ourselves than in everyday life. I mean, it's one thing to sit on our cushion thinking, may all beings be well and happy and free from suffering. But it's another thing to go out and do something about that. Not only, in social activism, which is incredible, but also just on that day-to-day dealing with your families and your colleagues and people you meet. In Buddhism, one nice thing when they're doing meditations on loving kindness and compassion, you start, as I was saying yesterday, traditionally you start with giving loving kindness and compassion to yourself. Because if we don't feel it inside ourselves, and warmth and friendliness towards ourselves, it's almost, it's probably not very genuine to give it to others. So then when you feel comfortable within yourself and friendly and forgiving to yourself, you give to others. And you start with people you love because that's easy, wishing them well, free from suffering. And then neutral people. I always think that's very interesting. You think of somebody that you see every day that, you see them, but you never really given a thought one way or the other whether they're happy or miserable. Maybe just anybody. If you travel by bus every day, the bus driver, or, anybody, some work colleague, or anybody that you don't really know very well, but you've seen them around, but you've never given a thought to whether they're happy or not, then single out that person and really think, how wonderful if they were happy. How lovely if they were free from all their problems and difficulties and everything went well for them. Wouldn't that be lovely? And then from that to somebody that we have personal difficulties with, usually somebody that you, from the past or the present, that you don't like very much. But it can be anybody, that you have problems with, and then gradually spreading it out to go encompass all beings. But it starts by something very individual. It's very easy to sit there sending out love to all those little SBs out there, But then the neighbor is noisy, and I'm doing my loving kindness meditation. Can't you shut up? So it's important to start with individuals, to recognize you're dealing with people, wishing people happy. And that sense of open-heartedness that you carry then into the daily life. Every single person you meet wants to be happy and doesn't want to suffer. Every animal you meet wants to be happy and doesn't want to suffer. And so even just that, something very simple, can transform in the day. When we realize that, as the Buddha said, to each one, their own self is most dear. In other words, everybody thinks they're the center of the universe around which everything else circles. And to recognize and respect that. And think, yeah, may you be well and happy. May you be well and happy. So the human realm is the realm where we can really get to work on all our entrenched negative habits and to incorporate positive habits. And so it's very important that we appreciate that we do have this precious human life and that we don't waste it. No greater tragedy than to waste, yet again, a precious human life. We should use our lives so that when we die, we can die without regrets and with the sense we have no regrets because we used our human life to benefit ourselves and to benefit others. That, it was a life well lived. And as I say, some of you might be young and think, oh, I've got endless life. But you don't know. And if you have endless life, wonderful, use it for something beneficial. Don't frivel it away on things which have no importance. It's so easy for us to get caught up in distractions. Be aware. Be aware conscious, present, not endlessly caught up in all our thinking, all our backward thinking, forward thinking. Be present now with what is actually happening here, right this moment. Around you, in your mind, in your body. If we can be aware, the more we are aware, the more we are aware that mostly people are not aware. And with that recognition of our, even for a moment, of our innate potential and what people do with their lives, then naturally great compassion arises for ourselves, for our own stupidity, and for all these other beings who have such incredible potential and opportunity, and yet again make no use of it. So in Buddhism, compassion and wisdom are conjoined. They're two sides of the same coin. The more clearly you see, the more open the heart becomes, filled with, this is why the great beings have such infinite compassion. And it's not just for, sick puppies or, people who are obviously suffering, but for all beings, even people who look like they're in good situation, because they recognize that the only genuine security is in realizing the nature of the mind. Nothing else is secure. Everything else is uncertain and impermanent. That's the only security there is.